Good morning, Finger Lakes. Jim Sinicropi sitting in for the dog H. Weber. For Weber this week. And Harold will be back in a couple of weeks, so I'll be here this week and next week, kicking off your week for you, taking a look at the weekend in sports and what we got ahead in the Finger Lakes over the next 5-6 days. Got a big football show on tap today. NFL, college, high school. We'll cover it all. First off, though, there was an interesting hire this week in the world of sports. I'm sure that many of you college football fans took note of the BYU-Texas game, where Texas suffered an embarrassing 40-21 loss to BYU. Gave up 555 rushing yards. Well, Texas turned around, fired their defensive coordinator, Manny Diaz, and they hired, guess who? Greg Robinson, former Syracuse coach, is now the defensive coordinator for Texas. And any Syracuse fans certainly remember Greg Robinson, and it's amazing to me that this guy still can get a job of that caliber. I mean, Texas defensive coordinator, it's up there. So, Greg Robinson started his career out west as an assistant coach at Pacific and Cal State Fullerton, assistant in 1988 and 81 at NC State, defensive line coach at UCLA in the 80s, offensive coordinator for UCLA in 89. Then he moved to the NFL, was the defensive line coach for the Jets, and then in 94 took over as defensive coordinator. Had his best years, 95 to 2000, for the Denver Broncos. He won a Super Bowl ring as a defensive coordinator for the Broncos. Once you win a Super Bowl ring, it opens up a lot of doors for you, and it did for Greg Robinson. He went on to be defensive coordinator at Kansas City. Didn't have as much success there. And then defensive coordinator for 1 year with Texas in 2004. And that's when he came to Syracuse, 2005. He was going to revitalize the program that had fallen off a little bit under longtime coach Paul Pasqualoni. And we all know that wasn't the case. By the time he left in 2008, he had the only double-digit losing seasons in Syracuse's football's history. The only double-digit losing seasons in the history of Syracuse football. His record was 10-37 overall, and he had a 3-25 record in the Big East. So we let him go. And then amazingly, he gets picked up as the defensive coordinator for Michigan, another big-time job. Well, how did that work out for old G-Rob in 2009 and 2010? Two seasons he was there. By the time he was dismissed from Michigan in 2010, their defense ranked 110 out of 120 teams in FBS. 110 out of 120. And, they got talent in Michigan. They got athletes at Michigan. This guy's got to be just a terrible coach. So, see you later, Greg Robinson from Michigan. Probably never going to hear from him again, right? He did get a job as video analyst with Texas. So, but certainly never to be a head coach or a defensive coordinator at a big-time school again. Until yesterday, when it was announced that Texas fired Manny Diaz and hired Greg Robinson. So, let's keep an eye on old Texas this season. See how old G-Rob does back in charge of a defense. Anytime his name comes up, it just brings back a lot of bad memories. I thought when he was fired from Michigan that was it. But speaking of bad memories, how about the Syracuse Northwestern game this weekend? I purchased the Big Ten Network on my cable package so I could watch the game. And, of course, they lost 48-27 in a game that wasn't even that close. I mean, they blew it in the first half. It was over early. Came back, outscored Northwestern in the second half, so I suppose that's a bright spot. And, everywhere I go over the past 48 hours, I hear Everybody talking to me about how Syracuse has regressed, how, it hurt them with Marrone leaving, and they're just not very good. And I don't know how much of that is true. I mean, let's just look at things here. I don't think the sky's falling. We'll beat Wagner. We got them Saturday at 4 o'clock in the Dome. And then the next week, we'll beat Tulane. So that'll put us up at 2-2, heading into our AC schedule when Clemson comes to town on October 5th. I mean, remember last year, Marrone's final year with us before he bolted to the NFL to coach the Buffalo Bills? Remember how great that team was? 8-5 record. Blew out West Virginia in the Pinstripe Bowl. Well, let's look at how last year's season started under Doug Marrone. We 1 point loss at home to Northwestern to open the season, 42-41. And then we head to New Jersey, lose to USC, and then pick up a win versus Stony Brook at home, and then we lose at Minnesota. So we start last year's football season at 1-3. And nobody at that time was thinking bowl game or contending for the conference title. But we turned it around. So I'm kind of hoping that it's a similar thing this year. I still think this team can compete for an ACC title. I don't think the ACC is that good. We need some help. We need an upset. We need to beat Clemson or Florida State, at least one of those two teams. I don't necessarily think it's likely, but I'm not going to say that we don't have a chance. We got a great defense. Didn't look that way in the first half against Northwestern, but overall I'm pleased with our linebackers. Our secondary is fairly solid, and our defensive line was getting some good pressure, especially in the second half on Northwestern's quarterbacks, because they did have two. Drew Allen, disappointing on Saturday. 4 interceptions. And, of course, there was a quarterback battle between Drew Allen, the transfer from Oklahoma, fifth-year senior, and sophomore Terrell Hunt, who a lot of people thought deserved the job. They said he's just got a better rapport with the wide receivers. He's got more tools. He can run with it. Big guy, Terrell Hunt. Well, we got to look at Terrell Hunt in the second half of that Northwestern game, and he had a nice drive. He went 2 for 4, 22 yards passing, scrambled for 30 yards, and a 16-yard touchdown. So we'll have to wait and see what old Scott Schaefer's got up his sleeve when Wagner comes to town. Are we going to see Drew Allen for 4 quarters? Are we going to see a 2-quarterback system? Are we going to see Terrell Hunt with a start? I don't think they're going to get, I don't think they're going to go away from Allen just like that. I think these next 2 games could be a chance for Allen to get a little more comfortable with his wide receivers. But, boy, if you're just talking about the eye test, Terrell Hunt looks pretty good. He's just a sophomore, so we got him on the hill for a couple more years. I wouldn't mind him, going to Terrell Hunt. So, anyways, the Orange are back in the Dome, 4 o'clock, home opener against the Wagner Seahawks. And as they try to get the first win. And then the following week, Tulane comes to the Dome. So, goal is get to 2-2 by the end of September. Top 10 ranked Clemson comes to the Dome on October 5th. And we'll go from there. Hey, speaking of Doug Marrone, coached his first NFL game as a head coach yesterday, Sunday. As the Bills lost to the Patriots 23-21 in a game that the Bills really could have won. And, if you're a Bills fan, it's just frustrating. Winning and losing that game is the difference between the Bills and teams that actually go to the playoffs. At least once a decade. Now, I think Marrone's going to get control of this situation, and maybe not this season, but next season, you'll see the Bills in the playoffs. E.J. Manuel's a bright spot for the Bills. Everybody was a little shocked when he was a first-round pick out of Florida State. I think it was 16th overall in the draft this year. Hey, he looks good. Big guy. Mobile, good arm. Made fairly good decisions. And it's interesting to watch Marrone coach this team. They reflect a lot of the tendencies I think that Syracuse had. But, here's a guy who, Doug Marrone, head offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints. a Super Bowl team. Of course, he had left for Syracuse by the time they actually went to the Super Bowl. But I think Bills fans, there's a little light at the end of the tunnel. But you know what? When you got control of a football game like that, especially against a division rival, you got to bring home the W. And they didn't. They blew it at the end. Lost to a field goal. Tom Brady got him into range, and that was it. 0-1, Bills, 0-1. Next Sunday, they'll be home against the Carolina Panthers at 1 o'clock. So, hey, congratulations to all the finishers at the Finger Lakes Triathlon in Canandaigua on Sunday, including my wife, who had a team. She did the swimming leg. I think it's a half-mile swim. Then you get out of the water, run about a quarter mile, tag off to the person riding the bike. They had a great day for it, great turnout, great event. Congratulations to the organizers and the finishers and participants at the Finger Lakes Triathlon in Canandaigua. I'm going to take a short break. We're going to hear from the great sponsors who support this program. And when I come back, we're going to get local, take a look at all the high school football action over the weekend here in Section 5. And welcome back, everybody, to Weber this week. Jim Sinicropi sitting in for the dog, H. Weber, this Monday and next Monday. He'll be back on the 23rd of September. And I think we got some guests lined up as well when he returns. I don't know exactly. I can't think off the top of my head who we got. I know new Miners basketball head coach Nick Ciotti's going to stop in. Taking over from the legendary Coach Fields at MA. He'll tell us a little bit about who he's got on the team this year, but that's should be on September 23rd. Local high school football kicked off across the region this weekend. I mean, this weekend felt like fall to me. It was cold, really cold at night, really cold in the morning, and football everywhere. So if that's fall in the Finger Lakes to me, cool weather and football. Now, it's not just going to, I don't think summer's going to go away that easily, because anybody that checked out the weather forecast this week, tomorrow on Tuesday, we're expecting 90 degrees and humid. And the overnight high Tuesday into Wednesday, or an overnight low, is supposed to be 71. 71 and humid overnight, that's mid-July conditions. So I don't know if this is Indian summer or if that's going to come a little later in October, but certainly midweek this week in the Finger Lakes, going to be hot. So, as I mentioned, high school football, the thing that popped out to me the most out of all the scores and action across the region on the gridiron, Dundee, the Scots, scored 85 points in a rout of South Seneca on Saturday. 85 points. Now, they only threw one touchdown pass, so I don't know if they ran up the score or if they were just, had their second string in and just kept running the ball. But they obviously couldn't be stopped. A lot of guys in the stat sheet for Dundee. Christopher Kramer led the way with 114 yards on only 5 carries, scored a touchdown. Paul Pollock's rushed for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jeffrey Wood had 71 yards and 2 touchdowns on 5 carries. Colin Pryor rushed for 91 yards and had 2 touchdowns. And Pryor also notched 10 tackles on defense. And speaking of defense, Dundee had a couple defensive touchdowns. Cole Hartman and Brennan Krall each returned fumbles for touchdowns. So If you had if you had just Dundee running backs on your fantasy football team this weekend, you probably would have won 85 points in a high school football game. Other action in the Wayne Finger Lakes Leagues of Section 5 this weekend on Friday night. Wayne beat Palmac 45-6. Wayne rushed for over 450 yards, led by 208 yards and 4 touchdowns from Justin Morrison. And they easily won their home opener in Ontario. Newark blanks Penn Yan 16-0. Newark quarterback Phil Tack threw for 208 yards, 128 of them to Micah Wright. He's the point guard on the basketball team, including a touchdown strike to Wright. And the Reds win fairly easily in Newark on Friday night. Mustangs were shut out despite 72 yards on the ground from John Martiche. The Geneva Panthers back in action. Now they lost Shane Sweeney, a couple other guys off their team who went on a deep postseason run last year. But they were able to handle Waterloo, winning 41-6. Josh Jackson had 170 yards on the ground. Also found pay dirt twice, while teammate Joey Richardson had a pair of receiving touchdowns. The Geneva Panther defense held the Indians to just 91 yards of total offense in the 35-point win. Canandaigua 48, Honeoye Falls Lima 7. So Canandaigua had a great season last year. They opened up their 2013 season on the road at Honeoye Falls. Lima came up with a convincing 41-point win. Jamin Ransom ran for 195 yards on 25 carries, including 3 touchdowns. Brian Feldman added a fumble recovery return for a touchdown. And Eric Munn also scored on the defensive side of the ball for the Braves, returning an interception for 60 yards and a touchdown. E.R. Gananda, East Rochester Gananda combining their football programs, and they defeated Mid-Lakes 48-13 on Friday night. Nathan Teeter, 7 carries for 99 yards and a touchdown. Jake Miller had 8 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown. Brett Custer, 5 carries and 73 yards and a touchdown. And Andrew Fisher had 3 receptions for 83 yards and 2 touchdowns for E.R. Gananda. On Brock Field on Friday night, probably one of the best games of the weekend, as Minders held off Lions 22-14 to win their home opener for a second straight year in an exciting game. Chris Plate had 91 yards for Minders on the ground and scored a touchdown. Quarterback Liam Carher threw for a touchdown pass and a 2-point conversion as Minders starts their season 1-0. And hey, you got one of the best teams, I think, in the Wayne Finger Lakes this year might be Clyde-Savannah. And they beat Marcus Whitman 28-17 in a game that really wasn't that close. I think Clyde opened up a 21-0 lead or 22-0 lead early, and then kind of called the dogs off, and Whitman was able to get some points of their own. Joe Fanil ran for 2 touchdowns and threw for a pair. So that's a total of 4 touchdowns he was responsible for. Both of his tight end passes came to Cam DeSanto, the tight end, big fella, power forward on the basketball team, as the Golden Eagles win at Dercola Field by 11 points over Marcus Whitman. So this week, got a lot of games on tap. We got Wayne visiting Mid-Lakes on Friday night. Newark, it comes to Waterloo. Geneva visits Palmac. E.R. Gananda takes on Penn Yan. Red Jacket travels to Lions. And Dundee faces Marcus Whitman. We'll see if they can score 85 points against Marcus Whitman. Those games are all 7 o'clock starts. And then on Saturday, oh boy, Clyde-Savannah travels to South Seneca for a 1 o'clock kickoff. And Greece Olympia will be at Canandaigua. So Canandaigua hosting Greece Olympia, 2 o'clock there. And Minders Academy back in action at Bishop Kearney High School against University Prep, a 7 o'clock start there. Also this week, the PGA playoffs start. BMW Championship. I like the postseason in the PGA Tour. I like how they've done that. They cut it down each week a little further, and it's interesting. It's a lot more exciting than fall golf used to be on the PGA Tour. And speaking of fall golf, I played golf on in the Canal Cup matches this weekend. I was on the Seneca Falls Country Club team, and every year we play matches against the Silver Creek team in Waterloo. This year's event was at Silver Creek. We won 10-2, retained the Canal Cup. I was part of a match that we lost. We only lost one match, and I was part of that match. Me and my partner Jay Peralt. We lost. Seneca Falls Country Club lost a match, tied 2 matches, won the rest to retain the cup. It was a great day. The golf course over at Silver Creek's in fantastic shape. Paul Clark's got the greens rolling great. Everything's green. Place is in nice shape. And they tucked the pins. It was an interesting day. A lot of tough pins out there on Sunday. And, hey, great food at the Dungeon after. It's a fun event. Love playing golf with those guys. And like I said, the course was in great shape. Food was good. We had a fantastic time. So thanks to Norm Sharman over at Silver Creek for hosting that great event this year. Next year it should be back at Seneca Falls. So I'll be back next Monday morning as well. And then Harold will be back on September 23rd. So there'll be more football to talk about next week. I might even find a guest to come in here and sit with me so you don't have to just listen to me talk for half an hour. But it's going to get hot this week in the Finger Lakes. So don't put those air conditioners away just yet. Monday Night Football tonight is a doubleheader. Syracuse Wagner, 4 o'clock on Saturday. Have a great week, everybody.